come out of closed session?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Director Washington, seconded by Director Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're out of closed session at 6:32. And public report on action taken in closed session.
No reportable action was taken in closed session.
Okay. And at this time, I would like to call the 6 o'clock open meeting session to order. And we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute recess as requested by staff. Dispense with the reading of the statute. And we'll let the record show that the floor is open to public comments at this time. If anybody would like to address the board, please come to the podium. And being as there are no public comments, we will close public comments. Minutes, do you have a motion to approve the minutes, M1 through M5?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion is made by Director Washington, seconded by Director Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Consent calendar, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Director Stewart, seconded by Director Washington. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, new business 1. Approve the Southern California Edison Company schedules LS-1 Option E Energy Efficiency Light Emitting Diode LED fixture replacement rate agreement. Presenter Steve Perez, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. I made a report on this at the last meeting in regard to the LED lighting, a power savings venture by Southern Cal Edison and the Public Utilities Commission. Public Utilities Commission underwrites the loan, and Edison installs all the lights in the district, and for that there is a generated savings in the power consumption. Brock, I'm going to turn to you. I think it was in the $500 a month current, and then more than that after post payment of the loan.
And I don't have the agreement in front of me, but yes, it's a reduced savings during the repayment, because a part of that savings is used to pay back that loan over 20 years. And after that, the district will realize the full savings from the conversion to LEDs.
You know, one thing that I would like to point out to the public on this, I approached Edison back in February to talk about potential savings plans for a street lighting issue in the community. And they made us aware of this program, and staff has been working on it since that time. But the nice thing about this is, yes, we have to pay for the retrofit to the LED lights, but there's no upfront out-of-pocket cost for this agency. It's all paid for by Edison, and then over a 20-year period, we pay the money back to Edison. But right from day one, this community will realize the savings in our energy bill for the streetlights. So therefore, the community gets an instant benefit. And then once the improvements are paid off after 20 years, then we will see a substantial benefit to the community of the full savings. So it's a win-win for us. We reduce our consumption of electricity. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, I've replaced some LED lights at my house, and the LED lights have made a tremendous change. I mean, I think they're brighter than your incandescent bulbs or your vapor bulbs anyhow. So I think it'll be, for a public standpoint, I think we're going to have brighter streetlights out there. And so I'm looking forward to this, and I'm very excited about the fact that the community will see the savings from day one.
I know that the communities doesn't want to hear about streetlights very often and anymore, but I need to remind everybody that the RCSD doesn't maintain or work on or charge for the street lighting. That's all the charges and maintenance and erection of the facilities are done by Southern Cal Edison. So basically what we are is a collection agency that passes through the revenues to Southern California Edison. One of the things that got me, and I'm going to turn to Brad, and Brad, I didn't have a chance to ask you this question. Because it's a loan going through and it's being paid back by user fees, is that the impact on the RCSD's debt ratio at all? Because it is a pass-through.
Without looking at the specificity of the agreement, I couldn't answer it with any kind of certainty. Typically, these arrangements are structured because we act as a fiduciary for Southern California Edison. Those rates would be included in the adjustments for that NBS prepares for the district every year for the CPI adjustments in the engineer's report. So it would all flow through and be a consideration of that with no financial impact to the district. But without reading the agreement, I couldn't tell you for sure. But that's typically how those work.
And it's in my understanding that the revenues that are generated to pay the debt service are taken from the savings of the power consumption that otherwise would be out there. So it doesn't seem like there would be any impact at all because it's already set.
And that's the beauty of this, and it's just, I like the fact that this agency does not have to put one dime out up front. It's all done by Edison, and the fact that there's such a savings in the LEDs that the current revenue we have coming in, we're going to see a savings off of that right off the bat, and that's I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a win-win for the community. Okay, with that, is there any other discussion on MB1? Okay, do I have a motion to approve MB1?
Moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Director Stewart, seconded by Director Washington. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. President, if I may, I want to give you a couple of numbers. During the payback period, the estimated annual savings is $6,594, and post payoff, the estimated is $16,497.
Thank you. Very significant savings. Okay, MB2, approve the contract from Aqua Operations to review the operations at the wastewater treatment plant facilities for a cost not to exceed $3,000. Presenter Steve Perez, General Manager.
Aqua Operations, you may be familiar with Mike Popacek, who came out years ago and did an evaluation of our wastewater treatment facility processes and our certification of our operators. And he even did a short-term operation for us until we got up to speed. Again, because of the expansion project and the current process that we're going through, we requested to have his firm come in, Mike himself, and do an evaluation of our process to ensure that we were doing it correctly and recommend any fixes if we weren't. looking at the current process and the doubling of that process in the future. So they said that they would come in and do that evaluation, and at a cost in his contract not to exceed $2,000. I added the $1,000 for contingencies to ask the board to make it not to exceed $3,000 in the event that they come into some area, because in his contract there will be charges for specific other items. I don't know what they are going to be, but I don't think they'll exceed $1,000.
Very good. All right, do we, any questions on MB2? No. Have a motion to approve MB2?
Moved.
Second.
Motion made by Director Stewart, second by Director Glennon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. MB3, approve the contract with Northern Digital Incorporated for a SCADA system evaluation at the wastewater treatment plant facilities for a cost not to exceed $10,000. Presenter Steve Perez, General Manager.
I'm going to let Brock give you the biggest part of the explanation on the SCADA system, why we're going through this. But I briefed in committee this issue on why we were going in that direction. And again, Brock gave the background on it and why. One of the things to be noted is the proposal from Northern Digital started out at $16,500. And after discussion and looking at some of their tasks, I made some quick cuts and basically told him that if he could get this down to around $10,000, we might be interested in proceeding. That I felt it was a little bit steep. So he came back with another proposal of $11,700. Juan and I were corresponding in regard to that. And I told Juan to send him another email to your general manager. Was under the understanding that this was going to be $10,000. He said he was going to revamp the proposal, and it came out to $10,000. I think it's a workable amount. Juan saved $1,500 for the district. We saved a total of $6,500 in negotiating that back down to where it should have been.
I read the contract and I have a question. I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you, Brock, to be sure. Is that we have been discussing the purchase of smart covers,
Yes.
but there wasn't anything in the scope of work to make sure that the smart covers that we're proposing to purchase was integrated into the SCADA system.
This scope of work is just to assess the current SCADA system, so look at what we have and review the programming and give the district suggestions moving forward. And what led to this proposal was the contractor that we used historically was FM Controls, and they were a company out of Bakersfield. That business shut down, and the employees went to work for a larger company called Telstar out of Hanford. Since those employees moved on to Hanford, we haven't received the same service. So if we have a problem with our SCADA system, which is the backbone of our wastewater and our water operations, we could call Telstar and we could get kicked off for 3 weeks until they have a technician available to come down and see us. Northern Digital was recommended by Wonderware, which is the software, the company that makes the SCADA software, and they are out of Bakersfield. They have a much larger staff that can be here within a day's notice. So the smart covers, to directly answer your question, the smart covers were not included because they're not a part of our existing SCADA system, and this proposal is to review the existing SCADA system, but they will develop standards for any addition to our SCADA system.
So the smart covers will be able to interface with our current SCADA system when we do get them.
That would be a question for Northern Digital, but I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do that because that seems pretty standard that those would talk to our SCADA system.
Okay, that was my only question I had on that. I mean, everything else looks good. I just wanted to make sure that, because the smart covers is very important in regards to being able to get in there and evaluate our flows in our system to see where we're at. That's all the questions I had. Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay, I have a motion to approve MB3.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Director Washington, seconded by Director Stewart. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. MB4, ratify the temporary right of entry agreement for Southern California Gas Company for APN 471-090-10-00-9. Presenter Steve Perez.
The recommendation is for the board to ratify this agreement, and we're bringing it forward to the board for ratification because your general manager messed up and went ahead and signed it because it was a temporary agreement. Unbeknownst to me, you needed to take action on this, and we're requesting that you review this. It's a temporary work site at the wastewater treatment plant. They have to do pipeline repair, and we're asking ratification to give them the right to access that area.
You know, I've had dealings with Southern California Gas on that particular pipeline in the past. I was surprised when I read in there that easement was granted in 1951. But that, for you folks that don't realize that pipeline that's going through our plant goes down Challenger Way out by Paiute Ponds and everything else, that is the main gas line that supplies all of Southern California with the gas. So that is a big, if they need to make pipe repairs on that, that's important because it'll affect everybody in this community and everybody in Southern California if something happens to that gas line. So, do you have a motion to approve MB4?
Move.
Second.
Seconded by Director Washington. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, director reports, comments, future agenda items. And start with Director Washington.
Yeah, I don't have any comments.
Stewart?
In education, you tell somebody what you're going to tell them, then you tell them what you told them. It's repeat, repeat, repeat. It's like in real estate, it's location, location, location. In education, it's repeat, repeat, repeat. What I'm going to say tonight, you're going to hear if you keep coming back frequently. This is a political issue. First point, water is fundamental to all life. This is a water board. Water is fundamental to all life. Take away water, everything dies, including the people. Water is very important. Rain is the key to our water supply. Rain is the key to our water supply. People cannot control when it rains and how long it rains. People have no control over when it rains and how long it rains. All of the activities of people do not change the rain cycle. All the activities of people do not change the rain cycle. Climate change is a political weapon to control and regulate the activities of people and corporations. Climate change is a political weapon to control and regulate the activities of people and corporations. Nothing we do determines how long it rains, where it will rain, and how often it will rain. Period. You're going to hear that from me over and over and over, and I'm so sick of what I hear on news about climate change. and we're talking about water.
I'd like to just take a moment to thank everybody for coming this evening. And I have no other comments, so we're going to general counsel update.
No update.
General manager update. Steve, you have the floor.
I've given you a report and bullet points in regard to the wastewater treatment expansion project. And on there is a timeline beginning July 25th when the bid packages went out, and the various steps that will take place through granting the contract. I've tried to keep you apprised of that because this is kind of a moving process, and you'll probably want to know where we're at in that process, but these timelines will keep you up to speed. Suffice it to say, and I apologize to the media when I mentioned a couple things months ago in regard to this project and when it would start, but it appears that we may have a contractor chosen and on site as early as October, mid-October, early fall, and we might see some construction before the first of the year beginning. Our financial advisor, Brad, has been in communication with our financial advisor, Fieldman Rolap and Associates, and basically in my report I've put some points together, but I'd like Brad basically to cover your conversations with them, expectations of them for the board's benefit. And what I've included in here also is a tentative timeline for the funding process also. So you'll see that there's going to be, these two projects will be running parallel to one another as we go. Right?
Thank you, Steve. As the board knows, Fieldman Rolap and Associates was approved to be our financial advisor based on the RFQ that we put out several months ago. After a thorough review of the ones that we got, we chose them and have been in touch with the principal there. I had a good conference call with him yesterday morning. We talked about high-level particulars, mostly timeline and the next steps that would be required in order to move forward. I briefed the general manager this morning on those timelines. So for the board's benefit, the financial advisor's role is really threefold. It's to act as a project manager for all of the moving parts that go along with acquiring external debt. They're going to help do some of the financial calculations, looking at the best use of funds, but they're also going to work with the legal counsel who is going to be helping with the debt issuance, however we go about doing that. And we also have a placement agent who is going to be going to negotiate with banks on our behalf to get the best rate on that debt. The project manager or the financial advisor will be working with those other people along with district staff in order to ensure we stay on task, stay on timeline, and make sure that we have the money in the bank when we need it. They put together a timeline for us and with us, basically in line with what Mr. Perez has just presented, so that we can get the financing that we need in time, whether that's early to late November or perhaps into December. Just so the board knows, there has always been conversation about using some district money versus external money and borrowed money. We knew that that was going to be part of the case here, so we have time because we're going to have to spend some of our own money anyway. So whether we spend it up front or at the end or in the middle, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to be getting going this week and in over the course of the next 2 weeks. We're going to be looking for legal counsel to present some sort of a timeline and fee in order to do that portion of the debt issuance, and then also reaching out to several placement agents, one of whom works with CSDA, Steve knows, so we're going to be reaching out to him as well to see if he'd be interested in working with us as well on that. So a lot of moving parts. We'll keep the board apprised as management sees fit and as Steve sees fit, and how much detail you want as it comes along.
Thank you. Any questions on that part?
It looks like it's just kind of running neck and neck with the construction process, the bid process.
So we're actually moving full steam ahead on the project, is the bottom line. The next category is a strategic plan. I just wanted to update the board to let you know that we are we have started on the strategic plan. We've had some iterations and some wordsmithing going back and forth. Lizette and myself have done some final wordsmithing and then sent it to Brent. He responded with a minor change. Now we're moving to the next step, and we'll be defining some strategic elements in implementation and timeline. Our next 2 or 3 phases in the strategic plan preparation. Succession plan. I've been working on a draft succession plan, and it's a little bit difficult in trying to put a succession plan together when it's real difficult to word on how you want it to come out. It's easy, very simple to state what your goal is, but trying to get there with the moving parts is a little bit difficult. So suffice it to say, I'm in the middle of preparing the succession plan draft for the board and committee's review. The strategic plan, I'll back up for a minute, it'll also in draft form go to the various committees for review and comment, and when it's ready in the draft form. Water acquisitions, we're still in discussions with water owner, and we are going to meet again in 30 days. We have a moving part that needs to get resolved, and once it gets resolved, we'll know which way to go in order to start the potential water purchases that we need. And I'll be bringing that to the board. We may be able to delay those until we can get into another budget cycle, and it's possibly if there's an urgency on the availability, we may want to come back to the board to address that issue. The Diamond Street building, as you know, that the Historical Society has been wanting to get into the building, but we've had some analysis we had to complete. We had the structural, we had an appraiser or an inspector come out, and his first comments were, you need a structural engineer. Structural engineer said he'd come out and take a view of the facility, then present us with a proposal. Well, he has been out, and he determined that there's significant work that needs to be done on the foundation. The north wall has sagged. The footing is probably in need of repair. There's several ways that he can do that. One requires the assistance of a soils engineer to see if it would handle the weight, the load, and the proposed fix that he was talking about. But that was all on his preliminary view. So now he has come back with a proposal to do all the work that he needs to do, which includes some geotechnical work, boring some holes, getting some samples, doing some reports, some design drawings, etc. And for that, he's proposing a cost on that I think that the board probably will want to review a little bit. But that's on the report. Miscellaneous, staff and I have been discussing various needs of the district, and one of which is the storage of records and our emergency supplies. I'll be bringing that to the proper committee in the near future to discuss in more detail. But those are a few of the things that we're currently working on.
I have one question, Steve. It's not in your report, but do you have an update on the Water Master water bank application?
Yes, they weren't going to make it this month, but they feel pretty confident that we're going to get it by the next month's meeting. That will probably coincide real well with our construction meeting. We should have our contractor chosen, and sometime in late September we should be sitting down with them discussing the construction, and about that time we should be hearing from the water master. So hopefully they'll come to, it'll both of them, one will start, we'll get finality from the water master and about the same time.
Okay, great. Okay, any other questions of our general manager? Thank you, Steve. Okay, Assistant General Manager update, John. He is not here this evening. Is there any report that he left together?
No report.
Okay, Consultant Finance update. Brad, do you have any other?
Just a quick one. Our auditors will be here starting next week for our annual review of the numbers and our control systems. Part of that may include fraud inquiries or anything that you know of as the board, being new board members. There may be some written things that they send you, just be on the alert for that. They may not. It's totally random every year that they decide what they want to look at and who they want to talk to. That's kind of the purpose. But they'll be here next week for several days, and then we are expecting a final presentation of the audited financial statements at the November 13th board meeting, regularly scheduled board meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions of our Director of Public Works update, Brock?
No update.
And Director of Administration update, what was that?
I just want to let you know that in this next month's billing, we will be sending out flyers to announce our first bulky waste day, which is scheduled for October 5th from 8 a.m. to noon. And we are partnering up with Kern County and Waste Management. And in the flyers, we've also offered a courtesy bulk pickup to our seniors and to disabled as long as they call in advance and schedule the pickups.
Great. Thank you. And with that, I will take a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Motion is made by Director Stewart, second by Director Washington. All in favor of adjournment? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 7:09.